Are you a never, a maybe, a yes, or have been here? Everett Rogers and I think you, your company, your customers, the industry are one of these four types. This and a bunch more we're breaking down today. I'm Odess, and this is Secured. All right, so let's get into it. First things up, industry news. Dormakaba posted their H1 results this week. Net sales of roughly $1.76 billion. EBITDA, the margin up 40 basis points to 15.6%. Transformation savings of $239 million ahead of their own target. Big story there. And a first-time investment-grade credit rating from the S&P. The numbers are fine, but the numbers are not really the story. The story is what happens when you put Dormakaba, ASSA ABLOY, and Allegion side by side. ASSA ABLOY, from their returns, is accelerating. Organic growth moved from flat in 2024 to +4 in Q4 2025. HID grew 9% organically in Q4 alone. Electromechanical is up double digits. Margin is at a 10-year high. The platform transition is visible in their results, and they're showing the work. Allegion, they told a deceleration story. Their full-year organic growth of 4% guided down to 2 to 4 in 2026. Q4 volume declined. International fell again. Best-in-class margins, though, at an overall 23%. But if you look at it, that was built off of price concentration in one segment with no reoccurring revenue disclosure and no platform metrics. Now, we know they've made acquisitions and things are changing within, but they're just not telling that story yet. It's a well-run hardware business approaching the ceiling of its current model, and you're going to definitely see things change there. For Dormakaba, it's about rebuilding. Ever since Till came in, their new CEO, you've seen, just frankly, something change. The headline here is not the growth rate. It's the clean balance sheet, the savings delivered ahead of plan, and the bolt-on acquisitions inside data centers and entrance automation. They're not doing a harvest strategy here. This is a company buying itself a window to compete again. 3 companies, 3 different positions in the same transition. This industry is not maturing, it's bifurcating. And this cycle has made that ever clear. Speaking of Dormakaba, they also announced a strategic investment in SwiftConnect. And with HID already in, this is starting to look a lot like, pooling of an industry and less about partnership. Here's why I think it matters. I've written before that the access control industry is in transition. It's also a transaction system. To unlock its full potential, it needs a neutral trust network. It needs what we called a visa layer. And that is exactly what is taking shape here around SwiftConnect. Think about what fragmentation looks like in an enterprise in commercial real estate. A single building could have 2, 3, maybe 4 different access control systems. Then you have seated hardware players. They can't solve that. Software, though, can, and it will. SwiftConnect has earned trust with the industry and customers by doing what most have not been able to do. They deploy mobile credentialing at scale across genuinely complex environments, and they tie systems together. That is harder than it sounds. At some point, industries just stop reinventing the wheel. They pull around infrastructure layers that work. We saw it with Twilio in the enterprise software world. We're seeing it here. This is the $70 billion opportunity our industry keeps talking about. It's moving beyond lock and unlock and keeping bad people out. It's moving beyond being a hardware industry. SwiftConnect is carving out the network layer to make that possible. The only question I have now is, who's next? And today, Friday, I'm happy to say that yesterday, the Connectivity Standards Alliance, they released Aliro 1.0 specification. I want to tell you why this is bigger than the press release makes it sound. On the surface, Aliro is a communication protocol and credentialing standard. NSC, Bluetooth, low energy, UWB, tap to open, hands-free. It works without network coverage. It's technically strong, but that's the table stakes here. What actually matters is, in my opinion, is that standards are not just announced, they're built. It's real alignment across a lot of companies that takes time. 68 in-person meetings and over 650 working group hours later, Aliro is now not just a concept, it's specification 1.0. It's entering its next phase. It's 2 years of serious work by a coalition of 220 member companies, including Allegion, ASSA ABLOY, Fortune Brands, NXP, Siemens, and Bosch, to align the ecosystem around interoperable mobile access. When the companies that compete with each other put in that kind of time around the same table, that is not a product launch. That is an infrastructure moment. And the signals are real because it's also backed by Apple, Google, and Samsung. The credential lives in the wallet people already are carrying. No new app, no proprietary enrollment, no ecosystem tax. This is the industry's first legitimate shot at a universal digital key that works the way users already expect things to work. Infrastructure moments do not reward the companies that wait. They reward the companies that build on top of them first. Aliro 1.0 is the foundation. The question every manufacturer, integrator, and platform company needs to be answering right now is simple. What are you building on top of it, and how fast can you move? You're going to see a lot of this at ISC West. I'd start thinking about that question. Last week, I mentioned having the opportunity to MC for the Leaf Connect community event. This week, the Leaf community just launched Leaf Verified, and I want to take a moment here to talk a little bit about it because, again, like their press release, it buries the lead. On the surface, it looks like a new credential, NXP chip, public key cryptography, no key management overhead. And yes, that's all true. But again, just like the news from Aliro, I think this is bigger. The story is what Leaf is building underneath it. Leaf is not a product company. It's an ecosystem play. It's a community of manufacturers committing to interoperability by design, not interoperability by press release. Leaf Verified is the proof of concept that one credential can work across any compatible device from any manufacturer that participates. No proprietary lock-in, no encryption keys to manage. That's a fundamentally different model than the industry has seen over the past 30 years. And then there's the NFC layer. So they're tapping into something here that you can do with NFC. When a user taps their Leaf Verified card to an NFC-enabled phone, it unlocks a unique URL. That's not a feature. That's an infrastructure for delivering services on top of a credential. It's about what you can do beyond the locking and unlocking. So you're going to turn a one-time hardware sale into a reoccurring service platform if you do. This is their credential becoming an operating system. Watch Leaf closely, not because of the chip, but because of the model. We also heard from Deep Sentinel. They just integrated with the UniFi Protect platform, and the headline is not the partnership. It is the model also. Can you see a theme here? Millions of deployed G5, G6, and AI series cameras can now connect directly to Deep Sentinel's live monitoring hub with no hardware swap and a deployment measured in hours. Deep Sentinel also became the first company to get early access to the APIs from UniFi. It's not a coincidence. It's a strategic signal about where the camera to monitor pipeline is heading. Passive recording infrastructure is becoming active crime prevention, and the race to own the intelligence layer sitting on top of the hardware has started. Watch who moves next on this. Again, keep in mind, intelligence layer, API, big companies like UniFi. I was surprised to see the response on this one, but smart on Deep Sentinel. We also heard from Highland Tech. They just introduced Electra, an AI agent operating system built specifically for the physical security teams out in the real world. And before we go further, there's a distinction I think here matters. An AI agent is not a chatbot. It receives a goal, it executes structured steps, it interacts with other systems, and completes repeatable work without a human directing every move. Electra handles intake, tier 1 triage, ticketing, routing, and structured communication. Physical security runs on coordination-heavy workflows with high stakes and thin margins. Removing that friction compounds fast. You'll see Electra at ISC West in the startup area. It's worth finding on the floor and worth watching what comes next from Don and the team over there. I'm excited to see it. This is enterprise software at its best. We need more of this. All right, we'll shift gears now over to the briefs and the security breakdown. I'll start with the briefs. We spent 45 minutes with Mike Maxenti, co-founder and head of product at Genea, in a live AMA Ask Me Anything with the FISEC Collective community. We did it in Slack and through Google Meet. It's a great opportunity for those of you that are working with us and are participating in the FISEC Collective community. Here's why it was worth your time. Genea just launched Genea AI. Starting with the natural language reporting interface, think of it as asking your access control data a question and getting an answer. When was the last time this person badged in San Francisco office? Who accessed the server from last night around 10 p.m.? You don't need SQL databases, no Excel spreadsheets, just a question and a result. They went from a 40% success rate in the alpha to north of 95% after 8 months of building contextual prompting around how operators actually talk about their systems. Pretty cool stuff. During the AMA, I asked a bunch of hard questions, not only just about this, but then we even broadened it. Things like, is Genea, S2 2.0? Or are you building a better version of what already exists? And are you genuinely different? Mike's answer was honest. He mentioned a lot here. He said that the last 9 years was iterative, cloud native, enterprise capable, no on-prem appliances, good execution on a known problem. But he said the next 18 months will look a lot different though. They're going to be doing a lot with CRUD agents, MCP server integration, agentic orchestration. The architecture is already built for what's next. I'd check it out. What he said was real. He was very open to it. I even got questions around data. We asked whether his Gen AI natural language processing, does it belong inside Genea or should it be surface out to things like Salesforce and Snowflake? I liked his answer. He said both, and the cutoff is roughly around 1,000 doors. Below that, the native interface wins. Above it, the data goes to a lake and it can get queried externally. That is clear and defensible product thesis. I kind of like it. The closing line from Mike is the one that stayed with me through the entire thing. He mentioned that mobile took 11 years to reach mainstream. He doesn't think that AI is going to take 11 years, and he thinks it gets down to 1. If he's right, the company's still debating whether to build. You're behind. We received the security breakdown this week, and we had an article from Danny Smith, from the founder of Color ID. Just as a reminder, the security breakdown is a free newsletter that goes out. It's built by the community for the community. So if you send in articles, we publish them. All right, so what did he talk about? He talked about something that deserves attention that it is not going to see a press release from. The headline is simple. The one-card model on college campuses and universities is breaking down. And what replaces it will reshape how physical access control providers, the PACs, how you compete in higher education. Here's his core argument. For decades, campuses believed they were buying simplicity when they bought one-card systems. What they actually bought was lock-in. Credentials and payments, dining, parking, and access control bundled together into proprietary stacks with no real exit. Then you had mergers, which accelerated what was already underway. Institutions, though, are now actively disaggregating, separating identity infrastructure from the applications that they depend on, so they can choose best-in-class solutions independently and swap providers when something better comes along. For access control providers, the PACs, that is both a warning and an opening. The warning is this: if you think your value stops at the door, you're already losing ground. Behind every credential is an identity lifecycle. How it was issued, how it was managed, how it was authenticated across dining, parking, printing, and building access matters. If you can't address that full picture, someone else will, and it's going to wedge to displace you. The opening is in partnerships. Danny's thesis is that access control providers, the PACs, do not need to become identity experts. They need to partner with them. The companies winning in campuses are the ones building ecosystems around best-in-class specialists, not trying to be the one and only and own everything themselves. Disaggregation is not a threat to access control. It's a forcing function toward ecosystem models that win every single time in every part of the industry. All right, shifting over to my thoughts real quick. I mentioned earlier this idea about being the 4. And it's something I've been working through and I want to share because I think it matters more than most people realize, especially how decisions are being made, how you market, how you communicate, how you build product, how you interact. Our industry is in total transformation, and in some pockets that's true, but it's completely unchanged in others. Both are true at the same time. And yet they're not equally important to how the industry is growing though. That tension drives me nuts. I know it drives some of you nuts. That one day you're excited, the other day you're down in the dumps, and it's really hard. I've been trying to find a clear way to communicate what I'm seeing, and I think I've done that. So let me know how this lands. There's 4 types of companies, people, everything in our industry right now. You got the oldest, who they use words like never. They're anchored in the past. Then you have this older group whose word I would use is like maybe. They're not resistant, but not ready yet. They're watching, they're waiting, and they're hedging. You got the old, whose word is yes. Already in buying mode, evaluating and comparing right now. And then you got this new group who they're already there. They expect this. They were waiting for it. Most organizations make the same mistake. They spend their energy on the oldest, the nevers, because legacy power is real, or on the new because they feel excited and familiar and are frankly happy to hear somebody say yes. Jeffrey Moore, the researcher, he identified this trap decades ago. You chase the enthusiasts who already believe in you, and you miss the people actually making buying decisions. The older maybes are one credible signal away from becoming a yes. The old yes crowd is already in buying cycle and needs you to show up clearly and consistently. That's where the revenue is. That's where the growth is. If I'm you, the majority of your time needs to go to those two groups. You need to go to the old that are saying yes, and you need to talk to the olders that are saying maybe. The rest, it's noise. All right, next week, I'm off to San Francisco, specifically San Mateo, for a content project we're working on called The Future of the Security Integrator. We've been working on something, more longer form. Think of it like as a mini series, highly produced. Hillary and Alex, they're going to be on site with me, and we'll be soon announcing who the partner on the project is and more details. Other than that, it's all systems go on ISC West, the security event, and 50-person C-suite executive retreat we're putting on. Not much share on that, but I got a ton on ISC West, the security event. If you're in the digital trust and identity startup or experience center area at ISC West, we're coming for you, and we'll be there activating with you. We'll also be recording live on the show floor as the official podcast called West to East at ISC West. We have limited spots, and we'll be doing these 15-minute sort of podcast recordings that we'll put out. It's awesome. We also have the FISEC Collective Breakfast in honor of FAST. We've got 15 sponsors, and we're about 290 people of the 300 spots we have open, so get on that. Then poof, we're off to the security event with the X Forum and the X Pod. We've got a bunch of companies. We've got 3 days of thought leadership. We'll be doing some more podcast recordings, and we're even doing our industry night happy hour. That's going to be there. We're going to be busy. I know you're busy. We can't wait to see you. And I want to say the response to this podcast, I wanted to know, it's been great. I want to thank all of you who have gone on, watched it, gave it thumbs up. If you see this information as useful, share it with your network, let people know about it. We're going to continue to do what we do here, and we thank all of you for listening, engaging, and being part of this great community. Next week should be a great next week. We'll bring it to you on Slack, on LinkedIn, and in briefs, and we'll bring it right here. So keep pushing, keep engaging, and I'll see you next week. I'm Odess, and this is Secured.